Hello, everyone. First, let me begin by saying that just because Beyonce's bouncing booty gives you a boner does not mean that the Super Bowl halftime spectacle is an Illuminati ritual. Say that 10 times really quick if you can. This is a video response to Firecharger's Staying in Shiloh. Are we analyzing darkness or sharing the answer? And I'm not going to talk about his beliefs about the Super Bowl halftime being a satanic ritual. I I'll say that I'll agree with the notion that you should maybe concentrate more on the positive side of things than the negative side of things. But what I really want to talk about is Andy's use of the word Shiloh. You see, Andy said that Shiloh is another name for Jesus, which is incorrect. And I thought that I would give my interpretation of the word Shiloh from somebody who knows a little bit about English and Hebrew. You see, Shiloh is the name of a town in Israel, historically even, and it's, more than 10 miles away from the West Bank, give or take. And Shiloh, the word, does not mean Jesus, and it does not even mean God. Shiloh in English would translate to both a noun and an adjective. It means that's the guy who owns the thing. Okay? It denotes ownership. It's a title of sorts. Just the same way as we have Kingston or Lords. You could say Shiloh is, the town of he who owns the thing. And in the Hebrew sense, back in the day, they did really mean that was God's town, in that God owns the world, owns time, owns fate, as it were. But he who owns the thing doesn't necessarily refer to God. When you're reading the Old Testament, most of the time Shiloh is actually talking about that town in Israel. But Shiloh can also mean Yahweh, in that it's he who owns it. And when they don't specify it, you're basically meaning all. So no, just the same way as you could call Jesus the King of Kings or the Lord of Lords, you could call him the owner of my dedication or the owner of stuff, but that word does not necessarily mean Jesus. It is not synonymous at all. And even the way that sometimes Shiloh is used to talk about characters in the Bible, that character owned this thing in context, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's messianic prophecy. Even when there's messianic prophecies near that, the Hebrew portion of the Old Testament in the Bible, that was written before Jesus was even around, and there were some Jews that converted and started, considering Jesus the Messiah, after his death. But that word was written before Jesus was a thing, so it was not referring to him. And it might have been referring to a Messiah to come, but those Jews that believed in the Torah, they are still waiting for that Savior to come. Even if you're going to take it in the context of that one passage that you're looking at. And these are the kind of things that you would expect to see from evangelical Christians who are pulling Hebrew words to co-opt them into their own everyday usage to feel closer to the roots of Christianity than they actually are. You see this a lot with a lot of sects that are trying to weave a little bit of New Age mysticism with old Hebrew words into Christianity to try to adapt it to an end times prophecy worldview. So, no. Shiloh's not synonymous with Jesus. I also wanted to say that I do empathize with Andy because he got put in Facebook jail for using the name Andy Firecharger on Facebook, and he had been using it for like 6 years before somebody decided that they didn't like what he was saying because he speaks a lot of what he would call the truth to save people, but other people would maybe say fire and brimstone, uh, you know, or Christian hate speech. It's a perspective thing. Andy doesn't think that he's hating people, but some of the things he says are provocative. And so somebody disagreed with him, decided to flag him for using a fake name and report him on Facebook. And so Andy doesn't want to use Facebook because he doesn't want to use his real name because they're actually asking for, scanned copies of his ID and stuff in order to regain that account, which he doesn't want to give. And I think it's wrong that in order to participate in a forum where he's talking about very charged issues, that some people, just because you're part of that perspective, that opposition perspective, some people are immediately going to call it hate speech. And so they're going to, try to do anything that they can to silence him, including making the forum someplace that he doesn't want to participate in. Because once they get his real name, they'll be able to find other bits of information about him. They'll be able to harass him more. And I think it's important that people are able to maintain their anonymity when they're talking about things. I mean, if you don't like Firecharger's speech, then you don't have to follow him or friend him on Facebook. You can mute him. You can just block him. You don't have to try to fish for his information in order to further harass him. So, although I don't believe that it's necessarily the mark of the beast, like Andy says, I do think that it is part of a slippery slope where the more we give our information to companies and to the public, the more they are able to get into our lives. And that is something that, if you're vigilant in protecting yourself from, if you don't want to be marketed to by a whole bunch of salesmen, you should be able to opt out of. And, it sucks. Sorry you got flagged, Andy. Until next time.